just as the consultant who's worked with you, this is the consultant's perspective, and this is flagged as such in the report. Up until now, this is really, we've been the, analysing and funneling and sort of, facilitating a process and present that in sort of a framework in the action plan, the roadmap and so on. Here's some things I would like to leave you with, right? And I say this as somebody who cares, right? So you'll see in the bottom left there's a word cloud. And that's the written responses from the question about what's the biggest threats to Hilton Head Island in 20 years. And you'll see that things like climate change, sea level, hurricanes, and the size of the word obviously is, it's more frequently repeated, are the big issues. But my observation were people were quite uncomfortable talking about that in the public workshops. Really not, it was touched on for sure, but it had the flavour to me of an area we don't want to go to, right? Well, I think we're all probably can read the data, right? And unfortunately, every forecast by whichever group it is, whether it's NASA or NOAA or anybody, right? Every forecast or analysis that comes out talks about implications of changing climate occurring faster than anticipated. I don't need to remind you you're a barrier island on the East Coast, right? So, but I do think dealing with this is actually a worthy topic, but it's also one that, if you don't, will become your existential issue. But also first in to deal with it. I mean, I could easily see you being the location that pulls a lot of experts together and you develop best practice type approaches, because you're not the only barrier island in the world facing this issue, right? But you could be one of the ones that leads the discussion about adaptation and mitigation and so on, rather than just pretend it's not happening and then have to clean up afterwards, right? The future of the Gullah Geechee culture, I think that's really, it was quite a very heartfelt dimension to this process for myself, because that's a very complex topic. There's a lot of factors that are driving that, but that is something that is really intrinsic to your legacy. And I know a lot of good work's going on, so I say that, right? And I do think that is a topic area to continue to work on and find real solutions over time. And it's not going to be easy solutions, but I do believe that if that doesn't get dealt with, your island will be poorer for it, okay? You'll be a poorer community and you'll lack a vitality and a pride in your history. And at the level of personal individuals, there'll be people who are displaced and lose their historic home and so on. And then the last piece that I wanted to touch on was about changing the conversational focus and leaving a legacy. And I did sort of make reference to this earlier, is that I think there is going to have to be a proactive attempt from everybody to discover the way to have civil discussion. And I've stood in meetings where booing and hissing occurs, and I don't really think that is a behaviour that is going to create an environment where the original thinking can arise that you're going to need to solve some of your big issues. I think we've all had the experience of being on committees where we end up with the absolute lowest common denominator, right? And the danger is, I think, if you're a hypercritical community, and you are in that, my assessment, I say that as somebody who stands in front of a lot of communities, you're a hypercritical community, and not in a constructive sense, but in a destructive, where we're not going to respect the other view, I'm not going to listen, and I'm not going to open my mind to other alternatives that I haven't thought of. That's fine, people can conduct themselves however they want. However, the implication is that you will have declining participation, you'll have stagnation, you'll have the promise of something remarkable, but just somehow or other you never quite get there because you never get past the tennis match. And what I mean by the tennis match is polarised views. They say that, they say that, they say that, and they just amp up the intensity of that argument rather than find the way to come to a common ground. And as I said earlier, that's going to require the recognition of where I fit in that story. And if I'm the one who doesn't want change, I might have to give a little for something that's a greater shared good. And if I'm the one who's gung-ho and thinks everybody else is dragging their feet, and well, I might just have to settle down a little and take the time to explain to people why some of these changes are important. But you are a very well-versed and very educated community, and I would say that you're certainly capable of better civic dialogue. You know, I would think that providing leadership in the community, this community, would be quite difficult. Okay? Because who wants to put themselves out with the bullseye in their back or front? Okay? But you have issues that are far bigger than your individual concerns about those topic areas, or, you know, so I'm not proposing, you know, I mean, you're going to have to work out a lot of the solutions going forward. We've provided a framework for that. But I think the challenge, and this could be the most remarkable transformation for yourself as a community, is how do you come together and bring your passion and your deep desire and put it into a you know, a mortar and pestle environment where it becomes part of the solution, and then you have your eye on that.